Hello everyone, Dr. Nikhil Verma here with another episode of Things I Didn't Learn in Med School. Today I want to talk about a concept of partnering with industry. Now I don't know if that's necessarily the perfect term for this, but it kind of will drive home the point of everything I'm trying to talk about. What I mean is, when you're a physician, when you're in a high-powered position, especially if you're running your own practice, but even if you're working for a university center or a hospital or a big orthopedic group or a multi-specialty group, there are going to be tons of people knocking on your door wanting to partner with you. Now, this means a lot of things to different people, and I think I wanted to kind of discuss some of these topics and how to navigate it, how to think about it, or at least how I think about it. I think the first thing is that, if you are interested in partnering with the company or an industry, whether that be on the pharmaceutical side or a device company or some breakthrough technology, that's well within your right. But I think the first and foremost thing is, you need to really understand what the product is, what it does, how it can affect you, how it can affect your patients, how it can help people. I think this goes without saying, but maybe some people see this big, bright, new, shiny object and will sometimes jump into a partnership without actually taking into account all these different aspects. And, that's just at the very superficial level. You need to also look into, how did this company get their funding? Who's backing the company? What's the research behind it? Are they a private company? Are they a publicly traded company? Do they have other products that have hit the market, and are those products successful? Have they really returned the investments to their other partners or to their associates or people that have invested in that company? So those are some things you need to think about. And I say this because what's always going to be interesting is, at the beginning, especially at the startup phase, all these companies will be very excited to work with you, really excited to work with you and get you in, get your product in your hands. But ultimately, at the end of the day, not all companies, and I think that's kind of why I want to talk about this, some companies will transfer all that into making sure that their investors are getting a return on investment year after year after year. So at the beginning, it might seem all exciting, but in the long run, they actually don't care about you. Now, this is something that I've experienced, not necessarily firsthand, but something that comes blatantly clear as I talk to more people and more industry and kind of navigate things from the business side, not just the medical side. Those are at the 3,000 foot, 30,000 foot level, the things you should start thinking about. But I want to give a few stories of personal anecdotal stories that I've gone through that might help you guys understand some of these things better. I want to start with I'm going to try not to punch down and talk bad about any specific companies. If you want to talk about that with me privately, I'm happy to share the companies with you, but really I want to get the message across, and that's what's more important. Hopefully that'll allow you guys to understand. So there is a company out there, a very popular company, that they had like a fellows and residents and fellows webinar of how to succeed, after training. So I was super excited to get on the call. I hopped on, and in the first 20-30 minutes of it, I started just really getting uneasy and uncomfortable in my chair. Like, what are they talking about? The whole thing was driven about money. And that was a huge red flag for me. It's like, does this company even believe in the products that they're putting out, or do they really only care about the money? The proctor they had for the talk, he kept explaining, like, this is how you make money. This is how you make money. You have to do X amount of pain pumps a year. You have to do X amount of spinal cord stimulator. You have to see this many drug patients. You have to have your own urine drug screen lab. All these things, I'm like, whoa, man, pump the brakes. There's tons of different ways to do this. Like, maybe you're successful and that works for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to work for everybody. Ironically, the same company had set me up with him as my mentor, and I think if you go back to my what to look for in a mentor video that I did a few weeks ago, you'll see me explain the same thing. That was like, this guy and I just don't gel. Getting set up with a mentor doesn't work. But the conversation was the same way. He was kind of punching down on me just coming out of my fellowship and be like, yeah, you're not going to make it unless you do all these things. So, and he's actually given me a lot of bad advice. One of the poor advice things that he gave me was recommended the EHR system that I'm currently using, that I'm currently spending way too much money on. That's a story for another day. So, that was one red flag that this company had thrown on me. I'm like, man, this is really kind of skeezy, not making me feel well. I didn't like it. Well, come fast forward, I moved to Columbus, I started my practice, and the same company reached back out to me. It's like, hey, how's it going? We want to meet you. And I just got this really, really weird feeling from them the entire time. Like, they were very, very needy. And I think if you experience this in your life, like when someone's like a car salesman or something along those lines, they kind of kept pestering you, like, hey, what can I do for you? What can I do? I can do this for you. And they talk really fast. And, they try to bro it up with me, which is, I don't necessarily mind that in certain contexts, but in a professional setting where, hey, I really want to help patients. I want to get patients in my door that I can provide quality, valuable care. I don't think this is the right environment to do that, and it was very much like that. They were like trying to recruit me into a fraternity, which felt really weird to me, which doubles back to what I was saying. I was like, do you even believe in your product that you're putting out there? Funny enough, this company has big contracts with big hospital centers all across America, so they're allowed to kind of get away with these kind of things. That is definitely another story for another day about how these companies kind of get upper hands in certain hospital systems. But anyway, so that's one story of one company that my experience was. Now, you might know this company, or some people out there might know this company, and they might work very, very well with them. This is, again, just mine. But the overarching mentality stays the same. Is, kind of think about this thing. It's like, how are they treating you at the beginning? Is this the interaction that you're always going to experience whenever you meet with them? What if they're there with a patient and they're acting the same way? It's like, that's not really who I want my patients to be interacting with time and time again. So that's, one story that I wanted to bring to people's attention. Here's another story of another company that at the front end, I actually reached out to them knowing I was moving to this area, where I did my fellowship. I asked, hey, who's the rep, my local rep in that area? They connected me. We talked a few times. I came up, had lunch with them. Very nice, very sweet. And like, hey, we're really excited to get you going. I want to introduce you to some doctors and all those things. Like, great. Well, they kept doing this. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, nothing's happening. You keep introducing me, nothing's happening. And then, we all go to a conference, and I noted when I was at that conference that they would treat other physicians that are more tenure way better than they treated me. And I get it. I'm not, I haven't been in this field very long. I haven't made this company very much money. I haven't really provided much for them, but I really didn't have the chance yet. And it kind of came abundantly clear to me at that time. It's like, now this makes sense. It's like, they're going to treat you nice face to face, but in the back end, what they're really going to do is only care about those customers that help them the most. So that brings me to another point, is these companies, no matter what it is, all these representatives, they make more money off of what you do than sometimes what you actually do. So for certain procedures, these reps will actually make way more money for that time frame than I make for that same procedure. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind. So, these are things that I always think is like a true win-win scenario is like, you're winning, I'm winning, we're both winning together and slowly progressing up. There are win-win scenarios where there's a favored hand, and sometimes these representatives have the favored hand. And actually, those companies actually make more money than the totality. So it's a concept that was brought to me a few years ago, and something that has always resonated with me since, and something I think about quite often is, no matter how much money I make or how many procedures I do, I'm continuously making more money for someone else. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, especially if it's a product or a device or a company that actually has a great product. Like, I don't mind using my skill sets to help more people, and if it's a good enough product, and that hopefully that company is smart enough to reproduce that into their marketing, into their outcome data, into good studies. So that's another concept that I feel people don't think about often. And I, again, don't want to call out companies. I don't want to call out numbers, but that's something to think about when you are partnering with companies. Like these should be win-win and all around. And going back to the point about this recent company, when I saw the conference, like, they should really treat you at least at baseline level, decency, human being level. Like, you're not asking, I wasn't asking for anything above and beyond. And maybe this is part of my ego. Maybe this is just, fear and anger and all that stuff. But, I would say that if it didn't happen again and again, and shame on me because it did happen again and again with the same company multiple times. And maybe I learned my lesson, but probably not. But that's something to keep an eye out for. It's like, how are these companies treating you? You want these representatives, not only these representatives, you want the vice president of sales, you want the president of sales, you want the CEO to be able to sit down with you and talk with you and have a conversation. And look at you just like you're a normal human being. I think that's anything anyone ever wants, is like, hey, let's just sit down and talk about this. How can I do say, how can I help you? I want to help you grow in my net, in my personality. That's what I want to do. And often, they'll kind of deflect and, but, you want to have those conversations. You want to be respectful, and you hope that they have the same courtesy and respect back for you, because, that's the reality. And I get it. There are doctors out there that are putting in lots and lots of stimulators, or lots and lots of, interspinous spiners, interspinous spacers. These are, big deal things at the end of the day, and, making a lot of money for the company, making a lot of money for the rep, but you want them to treat you like respect, even if you're just doing a few. And I get it. These companies would probably want to favor their heavier hitters, the patient or the physicians that have a higher patient population that fit into that category. But you would just ask the basic decency of that. Another, concept of, I was just talking about this win-win scenario. There's other scenarios out there where these companies will hype you up and get you all going and stuff, and then they don't follow through with anything. Or if you don't pull your end of the bargain, which should technically be pretty low, they'll kind of start like going away from you. So again, those are kind of the companies that I try to avoid. And once I learn this down the road, I typically don't learn it right at the beginning, but I start kind of questioning, like, is this the right fit for me? Is this the right person? Not just the person, but the company and the personality and the growth potential for both parties. Now, this is super interesting when you have the opposite effect and companies go out of their way to treat you very well. You have to keep that with a grain of salt. Sometimes they are just stroking your ego. Sometimes they're just doing these things so they want to capture you. But I think most of the time these people are very genuine and they really want to help you and they want to help you grow. And that's what I look for in life. Are you sincere in what you're trying to do? Are you actually trying to help me grow? Are you actually doing that, or are you really just trying to help yourself? And you can really quickly find that between the lines, especially if you set aside any of your own personal biases, or at least try to, and look at it from a different perspective. So it's great that I have a lot of friends that are outside the field of medicine or outside of my field of medicine, so I can consult with them and be like, hey, what do you think about this? How would you interact? What do you think from your point of view? So valuable to have those kind of connections in life. And there are companies out there too that will, expect a lot out of you. They do very little, and then they make a bunch of money. So these tend to be like very salesy. And again, you should be able to feel something like this at the beginning when you are talking to these people. Another concept of a company that's good, that's going to help support you, and you feel like that growth is, these companies will invite you to their masterminds or their summits, and not only that, these are small, intimate groups where you get to get one-on-one time with some of the leaders in the field, and you can ask these questions. And a lot, these summits or masterminds, they're paid for by the company, so there is a little bias there to help kind of backtrack a little bit of that bias is something called openpayments.com, where you can go and really Google search how much money a physician is getting from a company. If it's weighted very heavily on just like, maybe a mastermind group or something like that, maybe that's not a big deal, but there are some physicians out there that are on significant contracts with these companies. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. That just means, hey, we want your thought leadership in this device. We want you to speak for us publicly, and we want you to help promote it. But these physicians probably look at the data. They probably have their own anecdotal evidence. They really look at it both subjectively and objectively the best they can, and they partner with this company. And it can be a great lucrative either a side hustle or a way to make extra income. Something to note about that is, some of these bigger companies and hospital centers will actually own your intellectual forget what the term is, but they'll intellectual property. So that means anything that you would do in the field of medicine, that money actually belongs to the university or the orthopedic group or the hospital group or the whatever. So you just want to keep that in mind. Make sure you read your contracts. We'll talk about that in another lecture, another YouTube clip or video. So keep that in the back of your mind too. A lot of these individuals have found ways either around it or they're okay because they're using that as revenue source to help build their practice or build their company on the side. So I did want to put in that little caveat of information. And on the other end of the spectrum, I feel like it's our responsibility as physicians or anyone that is accepting dinners or drinks. I say drinks sparingly because you're not really supposed to be drinking with them, but it does happen when we go to dinners. But there are limits, and I think that's the thing. There have been stories that I've heard is the rep would go up and use the restroom, and the physician would order like a $200 bottle of wine. Like, that's really kind of rude, if anything else. These people are taking time out of their schedule to help you potentially, and you're taking advantage of it. And I don't really ever feel comfortable with that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where the Sunshine Act came all those years ago, because the pharmaceutical reps were really taking physicians to like courtside seats at basketball games and to crazy events like worldwide. And they kind of realized like this is definitely putting in a bias in these physicians, and we didn't have the openpayments.com back then. So these physicians were kind of doing it, and no patient knew of the better. So that product was forced upon the patient a lot more often. And it's getting more tightly regulated, which I think is appropriate. But I think there is something to be said. If you are spending time with these, or if you are giving a lecture, that you should be able to make a contract that's acceptable. And I think it's still kind of a gray area in my opinion. I think it's going to continue to grow and get better as we continue to grow and expand in the fields. But sometimes, if you are a physician or you are a professional in the field and you have good thoughts and good ideas about the device or the technology or something along those lines, then, maybe you just want to be a consult for that company and you want to see if you can help them grow and scale because of that. Just something to think about. My point of all this last few points is, I was at a conference, and again, the drinks are kind of a gray zone. Like, you obviously have to report everything and you have to submit your billing and all that stuff. And there was a physician who walked up to a representative of a company and goes, and I'm trying to be nice, but it's going to come off just like this, is, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. No thank you, no please, no I'm going to help you carry this back to the table. None of that. He just kind of barked these orders to the representative, and I stood there and watched, and I said, this is unbelievable. I can't believe, you took that, because if someone talked to me like that, I'd just laugh at them and walk away. And the representative kind of says, like, I know, I get it, but I can't really say anything. It's like, man, I'm very sorry about that. And when this is all said and done, let me buy you a drink at the end of this all. And, I don't know if I made him feel better or not, but that's not right. Let's, if I'm asking for me to be treated like a human being, the least that we can do is treat others like that too. I get it, sometimes that doctors have really big heads and feel like they should be pampered and all this stuff is, all that stuff's in the past. We should be treated appropriately. I think everyone should be treated appropriately, and it should be vice versa. So I know my best relationships tend to be with people that treat me well, so I'm going to treat them well. And I'm not asking anyone to go bend over backwards and try to help me out. Just talk to me like a normal person. I feel like if we can all bridge that gap and do that kind of stuff, then we can really help one another and really help the companies grow. So this, there's a lot to be said about this topic, and I think the portion I brushed over with the looking into the company and all their data and, looking at how their funding and all that stuff. I think that's probably one of the most important portions of all of it. But I think I was a little bit heated up from this week from a few things that happened with me of industry. Like someone called me this week and said, "Oh, we were restructuring our contracts. I'll reach out to a couple weeks." Like, man, I cleared my schedule for you, and you're going to treat me like that? Like, so I got a little heated about that. And another company that said, "Oh yeah, we have this patient or physician finder in your area, and yeah, we didn't know you had a practice open in this area." And I'm like, I've been open for 8 months in this area. I don't know, like, how did you not know? So you didn't do your research. Or just a company, cold calling me is like, "Oh, do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this?" And it's like, just go to my practice website. It's on there. A lot of this is my own personal issues. I try to be nice. I try to be inclusive. I try to let everyone in. But it's like, if you don't do the bare minimum, part of the reason why I get short with these representatives of these companies is because, we're all busy. And every time we take the mental fortitude to go and talk to them and they're not offering something that's going to be beneficial, then it's disrespectful. And I guess that's my outward projection of me being disrespectful back, maybe sometimes to the wrong people. I don't necessarily try to do it. I'm not doing it maliciously. Hopefully I'm not. But it's really, if you don't have the time for me, I understand. Like, let's just call it what it is, and better off me moving my direction, because I know where I want to go and how I want to move forward. And you'd rather partner with the people that want to move forward with you in that space and that idea. So that's really all I got today. It's a little bit different of a feel because maybe there is some heat behind this one, but I think it was important for me to talk about. And I do want people out there, because I think there's residents and fellows that are watching this, and they've villainized the whole industry field, and because we're kind of taught that in residency and as med students, like, oh, don't talk to them or don't accept dinner for them. It's like, I think that stuff's in the past too. It's like, no, you can have an educated discussion with someone and think the technology or the device or the medication or the future of something is cool, and go research it and try to understand it better. And maybe you'll never practice that or use that in your entire life. And I am 100% aware that there is bias to this, but it's like, I think it's important to keep an open mind. You don't have to accept every dinner. You don't have to accept every drink. You go sometimes simple as a cup of coffee. Like, hey, yeah, love to talk to you. And here's the thing. These relationships that you make with these people, they could be your next step to your next big idea. I met with Reactivate Mainstay Medical this past week, and one of the connections that I have with the vice president of sales, he's like, "Hey man, I got some people in Columbus that I want you to meet. I think you guys would get along." Like, I don't necessarily know that this is going to be a home run hitter, but he's putting me in front of people that I would never have the chance to meet before. My representative from Boston Scientific, she helps get me a lot of patients. Whenever she's like, "Hey, I know the perfect doctor that can help you out," because she knows I can get them in. She's not doing it like bending over backwards, but she's like, if she hears of a doctor that, hey, it's going to be a 4-month wait time to get to another doctor, she knows that she can just pick up the phone and call me, and I'll get that patient in. These are some clear examples. if I text one of my representatives for a company, I'm like, hey, this patient kind of wants to talk about this. I haven't completely sold them on it. I know, there's, things that you have that I don't have, resources, for example. Could you just send them their way and hopefully they can get some more education, and I'll talk to them more about it at their next office visit. I do that a few times a week, and, more often than not, the patients still say, no, I'm okay. But that's fine, because at least, it's taking time off my plate, things off my plate so that I can dedicate time to helping other patients in other ways, or at least helping even that patient and like taking them down an algorithm that I believe will be best suited for them. So, that's about it. Again, I hope everyone's enjoying this. I hope you guys find this useful. If you are, please share, drop me some comments, drop me some questions. If there's topics you want to talk about, let me know. I'll go do some research and hop on here and talk about it, and we'll go from there. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.